Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Chanu. ASP, good evening. So, Diwali preparation going on in full swing, I assume. Cleaning of the house, etc., etc., which usually is the responsibility of our generation. Harshita, good evening. Bunch students on YouTube, hello. एग्जाम अभी है कि नेक्स्ट ईयर है हर्षिता? Yes, ASP. Literature today to Hungarian author. Also, Nobel Peace Prize was announced today, not Donald Trump. Jyoti, good evening. So, students on YouTube, how are you doing? We are meeting each other after a long time. Shall we start? Let him upset. When you piss off Indians, this is what you get. Nothing but karma of Donald Trump. Yes, sorry, good evening. So now tell me, have you heard of polarity in the global politics? The concept of polarity? Has anyone heard of it? What is polarity? What is polarity? Power centers, good Shakti Raj, usually on the spot, and this time no different. So, what is polarity? Students on YouTube, tell me. Rishi Baga. Polarity is the number of power centers. So, tell me, how has the polarity of global politics changed from 1945 till present? Can anyone tell me? How has the world's global politics and its power centers have changed in the past few decades since the time of end of World War II? What is dipolar, Shaktiraj? Bipolar. After the end of World War II till about 1990, the world was bipolar. There were two power centers, one led by USA, capitalist, another one led by USSR, communist. So in 1990, what happened? Anyone? A significant geopolitical development happened? Disintegration of erstwhile USSR. Yes. So from 90 till 2001, we say that the world was unipolar. Only important power center was the United States of America. Right? And from 2001 to present, we can say that the world is multipolar. What is or which are major polars in the world right now? Important power centers in the world? USA is there. Similarly, we have seen rise of China, Russia, India, countries in the European Union. Now you can also include United Kingdom to it, because now it is not a part of EU. So now the world has become multipolar. Now tell me, what is best for India? Israel is not one of the power centers. Israel is very close to US. So US के umbrella में आता है. Why have I included EU and UK separately? You'll get to know in our today's discussion. Now, for India, हमारे लिए what is best? What is best for India? Tell me. Since many of you are going to be IFS, you should be in a position to tell this. Is bipolarity good for us? Is unipolarity good for us? Or is multipolarity good for us? Multipolarity good for us. Why? Kritika, ESB, Lakshmi. We can the word used here can't be dictate. Do we dictate? No. We can raise our concerns. Okay? Try to be very moderate in your language. So what is best for India? All of us agree multipolarity. But why is multipolarity better? We can raise our concerns more prominently. One is good. Better bargaining power, good. Shivam, anything else? This is the points that you need to know. Why is multipolarity better for India? Because it gives us economic gains, access to multiple markets, right? We can form technology and innovation partnership with developed countries. What does India need right now? Indian economy as a developing economy which wants to get developed, what does India need? And what does India have in return to offer? India needs more investment. India needs more technology. And in return, what has India to offer? What India has to offer? Manpower. Cost-effective manufacturing. This is what India has to offer. Also market, good. It also gives us strategic leverage. So the word that you said na, better bargaining power, in exam you'll write this word. Which is this word? Strategic leverage. सुनने में कौन अच्छा लगता है? More bargaining power or strategic leverage? Which sounds more intellectual? Have you heard any diplomat giving a speech, participating in a debate? What kind of words they use? Very heavy words, right? Fake के मारते हैं. Right? So you'll also use these kind of words. Both of them in one way or the other have same meaning, but this would fetch you much more marks. It would also enable us to increase our connectivity and logistics. What is the benefit of this for India? What is the benefit of connectivity and logistics for India? What does India wants to do? India wants to increase its exports. And for more exports to be available from India to other markets, don't you think we need supply routes? We need supply routes of raw material coming into country. We need supply routes for finished products to go out of our country and to meet in other and to be sold in other countries. So for that we are doing what? India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, right? There is another important economic corridor that we are wanting to develop, starting from Chabahar till Central Asian as well as European countries. What is that corridor called? Appeared in this year's examination. Can anyone recall? Starts with I. International North-South Transport Corridor. Similarly, how does India interact in global bodies like WTO climate change negotiations? What is India's official stand in these bodies? India positions itself as a leader or the voice of global south. So whenever in the WTO session we are negotiating with developed countries, India and China get together and they say that see, we are standing and we are representing all the developing countries and we are going to negotiating on their behalf also, right? So India positions itself as a leader of global south, and in this regard it can also interact with multiple powers. Understood? Now if you can recall, I mentioned that there are multiple powers existing today, which includes USA, European Union, United Kingdom, Russia, India, and China. Can anyone tell me why have I written these three countries individually and why haven't I written just the word West? Can anyone tell me? Brazil not a power yet, sorry. Has a good economy, but when it comes to defense, etc., not a very big power. Why haven't I written just the word West instead of these three countries? Now from 1945 onwards up till 2001, the word West was used for a informal coalition of these Anglo-speaking countries, right? But now slowly by slowly, you'll see that EU is trying to break off from the overall Anglosphere, or EU is trying to break off from the entire construct of West. Why is it happening? That becomes very important for us, okay? Now, first is differences in the opinion in the Western Alliance itself. What is the difference of opinion? First of all, on Russia. Now, Russia has been a long time rival of US. So, when Russia started its war with Ukraine, US saw this as an opportunity to put Russia down. But putting Russia down would negatively impact European Union countries. Why? Because these countries are dependent on supplies coming from Russia, such as energy supplies, right? Similarly, EU countries are very much or were very much dependent on US for its economic, for its military support. And what has happened since the time Donald Trump has come into power? US has tilted more towards economic and military nationalism, which would mean that going forward, the support that US offered to European Union countries for economic reconstruction, for supplies of military, for budgetary support, for providing nuclear cover, all of them is going to reduce. So now European Union knows this. So going forward, European Union would try to be more independent. It would look at every other major power centers and non-power centers from its own interest, not from American interest, right? And this is called as EU's strategic awakening. Now you will see leaders from EU like the Olaf Scholz of Germany, like Emmanuel Macron from France, they are trying to be more vocal about how America is trying to ignore the interest of European Union, right? So going forward, you will see that Europe is increasing its defense spending. It is developing independent digital infrastructure. How many of you remember this policy? GDPR. What was GDPR? Also asked in the question. What is GDPR? It was a data localization policy brought by European Union, right? And which companies were mostly affected because of this regulation? Yes, Kritika, General Data Protection Regulation. And which companies were negatively impacted due to this kind of regulation? Tech companies. And where does tech companies majorly hail from? United States. Microsoft, Meta, etc. Similarly, they are also looking to pursue energy diversification. Right? Now, when West becomes multipolar, how it would affect India, right? European Union would engage with India autonomously. So now when India is facing pressures of market access in US, don't you think why India is now so eager to sign trade deal with European Union, why it has signed trade deal with UK? Because now it wants market access in other countries to compensate for the loss that is happening in US. Similarly, European Union also has a lot of money. It has very good technology. So this would also help India in its development quest, right? So this is why multipolar West, multipolar world is in India's interest. Any doubt? Now, how many of you can tell me how is GDP calculated as per the expenditure method? How can you calculate GDP via expenditure method? Tell me students quickly. Formula बताओ इसका. We are coming into basics economy. This is very basics of economy. Hello Vijay, Reshma, Baga, Shivam, Benzir. Tell me, सब चुप हो गए? How can you calculate GDP via expenditure method? How can we calculate GDP? There are three methods: income method, expenditure method, and value added method. I am talking about expenditure method. Expenditure method GDP or GDP by expenditure method is calculated by adding household consumption, total investment in the economy, total spending on goods and services on consumption by government, and the differences in exports and imports. Right? So these are four components of GDP which is calculated using expenditure method. Out of these four components, can you tell me which component has the highest weightage? Household consumption has the highest weightage. How much is the weightage? %60. How much weightage does investment have in general? Roughly 30%. How much weightage does government expenditure has? Roughly 10%. And this has a negative weightage. Why? Because we import more than we export. So the largest component of GDP is consumption by household expenditure. And the second largest component is investment. Right? This article talks about why Indian capital needs to invest domestically. Why do you think this article has appeared? Any idea? What all has government taken in order to promote GDP? Government has encouraged more consumption. How has it done that? In recent times, it has reduced GST tax rate. It has increased the exemption limit on income taxes to 12 lakh rupees. Right? Government has also promoted more investment through infrastructure spending. Right? Anything else I'm missing out on? That not government does not do repo rate reduction. That is RBI. I'm talking about government. Government is giving more incentives to industries through PLI scheme. So this all government has done. But despite government taking lead in spending on infrastructure, the corresponding investment by India's private sector has not picked up as what is desirable by Indian economy. And as a result, our investment needs are fulfilled by first, government spending, and second, through foreign investment. Now, what is happening in these days that globally there is a rise in economic nationalism. World over, the government is trying to promote that their companies should invest in their own countries. So going forward, the foreign investment climate is somewhat uncertain. And for our GDP to contain, we need private investment also. Any idea how private investment would drive a long-term growth in economy? Can anyone tell me? How would private investment do long-term or promote long-term economic growth? Now, if you promote human consumption, you will get economic growth, but that is a short-term growth. For longer-term growth, increase in investment is desirable. But why is desirable? Can anyone tell me? I've told you multiple times in the classes. Also, YouTube वाले students, वो भी तुम लोग भी बताओगे. Now, suppose companies increase their capital investment. What will be the consequence of increased capital investment? Capacity expansion. Right? And to conduct manufacturing using increased capacity, you need what? You need more manpower. So it would lead to more creation of jobs in economy. More creation of jobs in economy would increase amount of disposable income that people have. And when people have more money, they would spend more. So this would create what? Demand for goods and services. And when there is high demand for goods and services, company would increase their investment further. So what kind of a cycle is this? Is this a vicious cycle or a virtuous cycle? What is it called? It is called in economy as a virtuous cycle. What is it called? Virtuous cycle, not vicious. Vicious means bad. Virtuous means good. So virtuous cycle is good. Why? Because it promotes what kind of growth? Long-term economic growth. That is why we need Indian companies, Indian businesses to invest in India. I've given all the argument here. You will have no problem now in understanding this because I've given you the background. So, very less comments here on how to calculate GDP by expenditure method. What is the reason? Tell me now. YouTube students, tell me, I'm watching your comments. रिवाइज नहीं किए हो इकोनॉमी तुम लोग? Eco class not done yet? Okay, Akshay. आओगे तो मेरे पास ही, कहां जाओगे? Don't worry, whenever your economy class would be done, we'll be able to solve that. Now look at this article. This article says that the Tamil Nadu government has sanctioned rupees 1 crore for conservation of 4 lesser known endangered species. Right? So we'll cover these 4 lesser known endangered species. Now there are 4 species. So obviously we can't get into detail in all those 4 species. Otherwise it would take entirely an hour. So what we'll do, the important facts that you need to remember, in addition to the photos of those species, I will show you. And this is what you need to cover for these species. Okay. I will tell you the most important out of these 4. First is a lion-tailed macaque. What is a macaque? Can anyone tell me? What kind of species is macaque? Well, Shaktiraj, anything is better than nothing. Yes, macaque is a kind of monkey. The status, IUCN status of this species is endangered, and Appendix 1 in CITES. Where it is found? Endemic to Western Ghats region. So obviously states which are in Western Ghats, they would be present here. What is the major threat it is facing? Loss of habitat due to urbanization, agriculture and mining. And it survives in fragmented rainforest patches, and it is an indicator species. What is an indicator species? What is an indicator species? Existence of a particular species if it informs you the quality of their habitat. This species is called as indicator species. So yes, Akshay Singh, one another threat that lion-tailed macaque is facing. Let me show you the photo of lion-tailed macaque. This is lion-tailed macaque. Understood? Now moving to the another species. That is Madras or bare-bellied hedgehog. What is a hedgehog? What kind of species is a hedgehog? Good, Shivam. Hedgehog is not a hyena. Hedgehog is kind of a rat. Chota sa species. Chotu, small species. This is not very important. Why? Because its IUCN status is least concerned. It is mainly endemic to India. Illegal pet trade, logging and wood harvesting is the source of threat, and it is locally known as what? Thorny rat. It is a species which is nocturnal. What is nocturnal? What does the word nocturnal means? Active during the night, like aspirants, engineering students, thieves, guards, lovers, right? Those are nocturnal species. Also, bat, owl, Batman, right? All of them are nocturnal. If a species like humans, majorly who are active during the day, what the word is called? What that word is called? Diurnal. Diurnal. That is the opposite of nocturnal. This is your hedgehog. Okay, the one I was talking about. Now, stripped hyena. What is a hyena? Tell me. Yes, Shivam, Nishachar, good. What is a hyena? What kind of a species do you think is a hyena? Basically like a fox, dog, right? That kind of a species. Stripped hyena distributed across many countries, so not endemic to India. Poisoning is one of the reasons of declining, and it is a natural scavenger. So what role does a natural scavenger species do in an ecology. How or why existence of natural scavengers important for environment? Tell me. Yes, it helps in cleaning of environment. It helps prevention of spread of diseases. Right? It helps in disease control, and sharp decline of their population would lead to increased risks of diseases, increased risk of pollution. Right? So that is why in ecology, role